Very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another uLaw webinar. This would obviously be the last webinar for the calendar year 2016. On behalf of everyone at the uLaw family, we want to wish you and your family a very happy New Year's Eve and a 2017 forward, a very prosperous and bright 2017. For purposes of housekeeping, we are expecting quite a few audience today. You are going to be muted. So we kindly request that you use the chat window for all of your questions, and you can keep those questions coming in as we go along the session, or you can hold them till the end. Today's topic that we're going to be covering is everything practice management. It is approved for, or accredited rather, for CPD credits, and we kindly request for two things. One, if you can please change your name from a viewer number to your actual name, as well as on completion of the webinar, if you can kindly send us an email to support@ulawpractice.com confirming that you did participate right through the end. And we just use that as a record keeping if the Law Society were to ask us about your participation. But otherwise, you should be able to log in to your portal or your Law Society portal and be able to search for everything practice management and utilize this session as part of your CPD hours. Yes, I believe okay, I'm just going to quickly type in the email. There you have it. So you have the email on the chat window. So please do send us your confirmation after the session. And today, as I said, it is approved for CPD credits, and because we're doing this across two provinces, jurisdictionally they differ in terms of the CPD credits. In Ontario, it's one, and British Columbia is another. That being said, as I continue to let people in, today's topic is going to be everything practice management. The last time we delivered this CPD, we had over 100 participants participating in that session. It's a very interesting topic to be talking about because it is very generic. I do see people typing their email on our chat window. I kindly request that you send us an email to support@ulawpractice.com after the session. Sorry, thank you. As I was saying, this is a very interesting topic, and when we discussed this internally, and even when we got this approved by Law Society, we always knew there was going to be a topic that was going to be of interest to our legal professional friends, and that's a big audience for today, our legal professionals. We're going to be tailoring a lot of the components of the practice management aspects to a legal professional. Again, practice management in terms can also be other silos of verticals. It could be health and care. It could be other silos in the industry, but we're focusing on practice management in terms of what a legal professional's outlook is. We're going to be covering various components of practice management. We're going to be covering the obligations you have as a legal professional to your corresponding law society. We're going to be covering that quickly as part of the agenda. And as I move along, every uLaw webinar does have an agenda. We're going to be using the agenda here as a way to walk us through today's webinar. Professional obligations is something that we're going to be talking about. What is that is expected out of you as a legal professional by the profession, and the obligations that are expected for you to conduct yourself in a particular way that ensures that you're meeting those obligations. And right from your client intake up to your personal management, the Law Society, I wouldn't call it guidelines, or rather it's more guidelines than a policy, but these are guidelines that you could probably look at as you continue down the path of being the profession. It's a very subliminal habit, I would say, that is required to cultivate and have that discipline around how you bring these obligations as just a part of your way of life and your business, whether that's your day-to-day business at your firm or just the way you correspond with your clients as a legal professional. Okay? So we're going to be covering each and every component in further detail. We're also going to be talking about the help that you have today in terms of software tools, process, as well as maturity in the marketplace, dealing with legal professionals as end clients. Today in the marketplace, you see that legal tech is one of the growing areas, and you as the end consumer of this technology, it's probably the best time to be in so that you can take advantage of the many tools and opportunities that you have to be more efficient and to be able to save time and money for you and your family. Okay, so we're going to be talking about each of these different obligations. We're going to be talking about practice management in general, the software tools that are available that make your lives easier. So let's continue with maybe the first point here, client intake, service, and communication. And we've broken each subject area into different subcomponents, and we're going to be talking a little bit more detailed into those subcomponents. So if I take my client intake, service, and communication, there is a certain professional obligation that goes behind how you represent yourself right from that first meeting with your prospective client, whether it's a client intake form, or whether it's your website, or whether it's just the first phone conversation that you have with a ghost client or a prospective client. There are obligations that surround and extend of how you manage that. It's very important right from the get-go that you build that discipline within your firm, whether it's a solo practice or whether it's a few friends working together as a firm, or if you're working in a large law firm as well. It's important that right from the client intake to how you service your clients, and more importantly, how you communicate the different components of your service, right from the documents that you provide to the email correspondences, as well as the receipts and bills that you provide. And all is part of that communication channel, ensuring that your clients are happy, but also have a transparency about the information that's being shared. One of the first and most critical components of this particular sector of professional obligation of client intake and communication is the ability for you to record the calls and consultations in a very detailed way. You could have clients calling you in for a consulting pro bono. It could be for a per hour basis, could be for a flat rate basis. Regardless of what the cost component is, it's still very important that you record the different touch points that you have with your prospective clients. So even if there's a client who's a ghost client, and what I mean by a ghost client is somebody that maybe flirts with you with the idea of engaging you, but provides you a little bit more information, but then ends up non-engaging you at the end of the day. You still need to record that communication, every conversation and touch point you've had, and mark them obviously as a ghost client for further references. So it's really important that you record calls and consultations, take down their information. The Law Society does ask for you to save addresses, physical addresses as mailing addresses as one of the key forms of communication. Email is not necessarily frowned upon today. It is one of those accepted forms, but a physical address definitely goes a longer way. And all of this is so that you can ensure you have the communication address of the other party on the other side to whom you can send the information, whether that's bills, receipts, or just retainer letters and other documents. It's important as a next step, once you've detailed and recorded the information about that client as part of your intake, that you also do what the Law Society calls as a conflict check. The conflict check is really a means by which you are now able to understand if there is a conflict or will there be a conflict, and do I understand what that conflict is, if there is one, in representing that particular client. You may have represented his or her brother, may have some further information about the family, and if you've represented the opponent before, and if the current client is fighting a case against that individual, those are things that need to be considered as you do that conflict screening. And the Law Society does have a conflict screening report that talks about how you communicate your understanding of the conflicts involved and why you determined, let's say you did matter that client. There are sections where you can explain to the Law Society why you determined to take that client, appreciating the conflicts involved, or maybe there was no conflict. For some of our legal clients that we work with who are starting up fresh, you know, they have one or two clients maybe to start with. They have 5 to 10 as they grow along their firm. They don't have a very acute pain point when it comes to conflict screening, but they still have to do it and record it. Obviously, the pain point starts to grow if you've been in business, let's say, for 10, 15 years, and you've dealt with various types of clients. So conflict screening and conflict checking for confidentiality and the information and who you've represented in the past, all of that really matters as part of that professional obligation. Determining collateral for fees. As I mentioned early on, when you take that client on, you want to be very confident and you want to be a very confident business person as well to begin with, knowing your area of expertise and knowing that when you charge a client, you're very confident about charging him for the right amount that is due diligent to you as a professional, whether it's a contingency fee way of working, whether it's a flat rate based service that you're offering, or if it's just a pure play billable hour per hour basis. It's very important that you determine that fee structure with your client as part of your retainer letter. The retainer letter could also talk a lot about the trust money if you do involve yourself in getting trust money. It also, that document helps in establishing what that retainer looks like, what that initial retainer fund is going into your trust account, and also laying out how you would charge your client for various components that go behind that fee structure. So fees, which are your billable hours, can be, as I mentioned, docketed or charged in billable, pro bono, flat rate, contingency. There are certain other components, such as disbursements. So we have clients who do a flat rate docket or a flat rate matter, for example, but they do charge disbursements as additional. Many clients do that. Some clients, whether to keep that competitive edge or if they're just starting off fresh, we've seen as a trend, say that it's kind of all-inclusive. So it's a flat rate including disbursements as well in many cases. And there are other clients, depending on the area of practice, I think it really differs, but based on the areas of practice, there could also be contingency. Some of the files that could take forever in terms of time, where you don't have a good understanding of how long this file would take. Again, could be on a case-on-case basis, could be an area of practice. No matter what the determination factor is of how you come up with that fee, it's important that you document it and communicate that to your client. Depositing retainers into trust accounts and providing a receipt. This is another horror story that we've often heard from legal professional friends, leaders in the business. As legal professionals, you do have the opportunity to collect money in trust as an advance to the work that you're going to be doing for your client. Very few professions in the world have that, I wouldn't say luxury, but have that opportunity. Now, it's important that if you do entertain retainers, which I think is a great way for you to be safeguarded as a business owner, because we've heard of horror stories where you don't have trust money, you do all the work with the leap of faith that your client's going to pay you at the end of the day, but then when time comes to you sending them that bill, then you get into negotiations and back and forth, and many times the client disappears. That's why communication addresses are important. And then sometimes we've heard our legal clients lose money on such matters. So using trust as a mechanism of ensuring your money, your hard-earned money, if you will, is important. But if you go down that path of managing the trust account and those retainers, it is also very important that you follow the obligations of how you manage trust money, because it is sensitive. You are taking money in advance. you're putting into a trust account, and it's important that you manage it with the obligations in mind. And it's also important that you provide them with a receipt if they do provide that trust fund, ensuring that it's on paper and it's signed off, that both parties agree as to what the amount was. If you don't have that receipt, again, these are humans that we're dealing with. They could come back and say, we actually paid you $5,000 instead of $1,000, right? Can happen. It has happened too. So ensuring having receipts, whether it's for trust or in general, having receipts is a great idea, even so for the trust funds. Providing letters of non-engagement. And again, many times as life happens, these clients who has engaged you in conversations and stoke your interest in wanting you to represent them may end up non-engaging. Many times it may be the other way around, where you non-engage your client. Regardless of who non-engages who, it's important as part of your, legal firm's documentation that you do have a non-engagement letter that clearly talks about the rules that govern that engagement and why you're non-engaging or why the client's non-engaging and what are the rules that govern that non-engagement. The terms and conditions, if you will, that surround and extend your non-engagement. But it's important and for you to appreciate and be aware and be prepared to deal with that situation. So it's, kind of really in terms of simple terms, in terms of the communication and the client intake process, these are the core components that the Law Society would like you to keep in mind as you continue down that path of being that professional. Ensure you record in detail your calls and consultations. Ensure when you're representing a new client that you are aware of the conflicts involved if there are. If there aren't, well and good. At least you recorded that on paper or within your system of record. Determining the collateral for fees, ensuring what those fee structure is, what are those disbursements, how much do you charge for postage, how much do you charge for fax, and obviously how much do you charge per hour or flat rate or otherwise. Ensuring that if you do involve yourself in trust, that you do have the trust money as retainers into your trust account and do provide a detailed receipt because your clients could be paying you cash. They could pay you in credit card. They could also be paying you in check. So ensuring that you record all of that is important. And, God forbid if it's in a situation where it's not a great relationship or customer legal professional relationship to begin with and you have to not engage, then you are prepared and ready for that as well. Okay, so we've kind of covered our first topic within the first, I would say, 15 minutes of us getting into this webinar. We're going to move on to the next topic of file management. And as I mentioned, please do send your questions in. Our support staff are online, and they would be able to answer those as we go along. I think there's a question about voice. If you're hearing this, obviously, you're hearing me. If you're not seeing the video, please do click our Join Me link. We will ensure that the phone numbers are available for you to dial into. Moving along, I want to talk about file management as one of the next components of your professional obligation. I think that's just a quick recap before I move into file obligation in terms of the types of documents that you may come across as part of your client intake service and communication. Right. So one of the most important first documents that we spoke about is having a retainer agreement. And as we've detailed within this slide, some of the key components that we've understood that would go a long way to keep track of is the nature and scope of matter. Is it a small claims? Is it a family? Is it a criminal? And what is the scope of that matter? Responsibilities of the client. So, in that 30-day term could be one of those responsibilities where they agree to pay you within that 30 days. Maybe you have a rule which says you do not accept checks or you do not accept credit cards. The ability for them to understand and take responsibility for how they pay you when they engage you. The course of representation and scheduling, whether that's court time or whether it's just the duration of the entire matter itself. How often do you want to communicate back and forth? We've seen retainer letters where clients would ask for a weekly communication to let them know. And again, it would differ from case to case, really depending on that nature of that matter. But we've seen that retainer letters can sometimes articulate the method and frequency of communication, whether it's email, whether it's written, ensuring that, again, you have that communication address in play. Retainer arrangements, termination details, and confidentiality. So you want to make sure that you talk about how confidential the information that your client is sharing is going to be. You want to make sure that they're happy when they walk away, whether it's secure payment or holding your files securely so that it's not prone to be hacked or otherwise tampered with. We talk about that. There's also the confidentiality of being able to use cloud storage as well as email. That's a big topic now of we're moving forward where cloud has become an inevitable part of our day-to-day lives. But as legal professionals, it goes one step further for you to now understand and appreciate the extension of that cloud into your life and how confidentiality plays a big part in managing content on the cloud. And again, risks associated with certain methods of communication. So if we take email, it goes back to my previous point about ensuring that you use a secure, well-reputable email carrier, and ensuring that it's password protected, and then you do talk about the extra security layer that come into play when you use these cloud storage systems. Okay. So moving along to the next professional obligation we were going to talk about is file management. Again, broken it down to certain subcomponents, and we're going to kind of walk through one of, and many of these things you probably know, but it always helps to kind of reiterate what you know, so that it's cemented in your thought process. But at the same time, we're going to take a little spin with each of these components with regards to how it relates to a legal professional. Because file management could be for anybody, right? It's about having that discipline, but it's also about a certain process that you follow. But as a legal professional, there are certain things that the Law Society sets as guidelines. Ensuring there's a checklist. Again, everybody would love to do more of a checklist, but having a checklist with regards to incoming matters. Confirmation of conflict check completion. So, as we spoke about in our previous subject, we spoke about the different client intake, communication, and the service methods that we offered to your clients. The file management is just a very logical next step. This talks a little bit more in detail in terms of the types of files, the types of documents, and the obligations that surround that. So let's say you have created that when intaking that client, you may have a certain checklist. And many times our clients have these checklists available on their websites. They even have client intake forms available on their websites where they ask for basic information like first name, last name, middle name, address, phone number, email, so that it's automatically brought into either your manual system or your practice management system. You may also have a checklist to ensure that you're validating the client. And let's say you do intake that client, you want to have that conflict screening report readily available associated with that matter. These are all important files. And when you file them in a very chronological way, it not only gives you that peace of mind that you've got all your ducks in a row, but it also will come a long way when time comes to audit. So every legal professional within the first 2 years, I believe, or the first year, will be audited by the Law Society to ensure, the sanity, but also to ensure that you're on the right track as a legal professional. So having that discipline, having these obligations, as I said, as just part of your daily practice would come a long way, both from a business perspective, discipline perspective, but also from an audit perspective. Having separate files for each respective matter. What does that really mean? So let's say you're intaking a client, and this client, let's say, is Tom Brady, Tom Brady may come in for a small claims matter, and whether it's during the same matter or maybe after that matter and when we've closed it, Tom Brady may just come back to you with a family matter because he really likes you, the way you represented him. He may just come back to you. Now, it's important that you manage 2 file numbers for those 2 different matters for Tom Brady. If you're having a manual system, the old school way was just to have a year, a number, and then the name, which still works. But however you manage that file number, and some of the newer products out there actually help you with a very unique, referenceable, automated file numbering system that keeps it always unique, which is a big part of the obligation as well. But it's important that you keep separate files for respective matters, even if it's for the same client. Chronological and secure organization of electronic files. So this is the other thing I was talking about, is the ability for you to search, index, and easily retrieve information about a matter, about documents associated with the matter. And it's really important because it's a time saver, but it's also important that you keep track of all the documents, all part of that one vanilla folder, if you will. And keeping it secure is obviously one of the biggest obligations that you would have, especially in the day and age of electronic information. But again, there's a lot of perceived security. Having files, physical files, locked away in your office, I mean, it's always open to threat of your office being robbed, files being burned. Backups are a very critical component of your business. So even if you do have a physical copy, do have a scanned copy available, and the other way around, even if you have electronic communications, if possible, if it's not too much of time, having physical copies as a backup always helps. So as much as we say old school, there are always advantages to the way things were managed then. And you want to marry them with the technical advancements that you have today that can save you time and make you more productive and efficient, right? Person recording of client interaction. Now, this could be various components. This could be docketable time. This could be time that's non-billable but still goes a long way in docketing, to communicate to your client about the work that's being done, to communicate to you and your internal staff about the work that needs to be accomplished. So recording the interactions with the client and or on behalf of the client is very critical to that file management component. And why does the Law Society talk about numeric and cross-indexing? Leave alone the numeric. We would talk about the cross-indexing. So let's say there's a conflict check and you have Tom Brady and then you're representing Stephanie Brady. The ability for you to quickly understand that there was a Tom Brady involved as part of that conflict screening is critical to that particular work. So cross-indexing information within your files in the context of the information that you're looking to search for is a very critical component. I would probably place it next after security, and a very pragmatic need on a day-to-day basis would be that cross-indexing within your file management. So you want to make sure as you generate documents, as you organize your files, whether it's in your firm, physically stored in your hard drive, or whether it's information on the cloud, you want to do the due diligence to ensure that it's secure, it's cross-indexed, it's chronologically filed, and it's available to you to be accessible at any point given time. Cloud obviously has helped and has come a long way in the accessibility because you don't have to be in your office to open up that desktop to have access to information. I think legal tech has gone a long way from cloud to mobility, where you now actually have your entire practice management and legal accounting right within your phone, because products do offer apps as next level up from the old school to where it is today. So we covered file management. The next subcomponent within the professional obligations we're going to be talking about is financial management. It's definitely something that doesn't come natural to all our legal friends. It's definitely not their cup of tea, as I've always mentioned. It's not my cup of tea for sure. There is a certain acumen that you have for numbers and management of financial numbers, especially if you're a legal professional, even so if you manage trust funds, because you're going to be audited on these numbers. And it's important to have your numbers intact. And it's important that if the numbers are not intact, you have an understanding of why they're not and an explanation readily available. Because auditors are not necessarily there, I don't believe, to catch you on the wrong foot. If you've done that 2-3 times, then yes. I mean, it's obviously a pattern that you're following. But the first time that the audit, I think from some of the conversations that we've had with the industry leaders as well as auditors, it's also to ensure that you're on the right track, to give you those guidelines, to reiterate it. And again, different auditors come with different style. But the crux of the audit, especially around financial, is to ensure that you are on the right track and you understand those obligations. We're going to be talking about these different ticket items under financial management. What does that really mean? Again, to have a little bit more insight of our take on those important topics. As I mentioned, proper fee scheduling of the rates, recording of those billable time in timesheets or other formats that you may have, ensuring that you have an accounting system, whether it's an integrated accounting and practice management system, whether it's an Excel sheet, whether it's a third-party accounting system. Software has, as I said, come a long way in providing that helping hand, and automated software can certainly help understand and handle these different components. Prompt transmission and delivery of invoices to client within specific time invoicing detail. This is a very critical component. I'll probably want to spend a little bit of time talking about the delivery of invoices. We have clients, as an example, let's say you're managing trust money. There's 2 ways in which you can get paid. And for both those different methodologies of how you get paid, a very important document is your invoice. The invoice is your legal proof of the work that you claim to have done. So you can go in and do all the docketing that you want within your practice management software or your legal accounting software like uLaw. You can continue to docket your time. But you're not going to be able to get that money unless you convert that time into that invoice document where you're, again, communicating through that document to your client about that work that you've done. You want to make sure they're comfortable. You want to keep it, again, have your own discipline of a schedule of how often you want to invoice your client. Because you don't want to send them that one fat bill at the end of the day and, they have a heart attack and they're not able to pay you because of just that, right? So you want to have a bit of a discipline. One of our friends mentioned as legal friends, keep them or let them appreciate that they should expect a bill from their legal professional if they are using one, right? So to let the clients know, let them be prepared and transparent. Be transparent about the work that you're doing. So invoice becomes that very important document. And as I said, there's 2 means of where you can get paid. Let's say you accept trust money. To move that trust money into your general, you still need to generate that invoice and deliver it to your client. You may actually mark that invoice as paid because they really have already paid for it in advance. But that action is important to raise that invoice, and then you can move your money from trust to general, which is very important. Many of our clients sometimes forget to do that. The other, obviously, is the most common, straightforward way, which is a general payment. If the client owes you money with or without trust, then the invoice obviously becomes very important to communicate and get paid. Okay, so prompt transmission and delivery of the invoices to a client is, with the time, the details, and the payment terms are very critical to your financial management. Systematic tracking overpayments on accounts. Now, there's a couple of things that you can take out of this. So you can also tweak this as systematic tracking of people who don't pay you on time. So it's important that you measure your financial hygiene. You could have various different types of areas of practice that you work on, but if you are prone to having customers who don't necessarily pay you on time, it's really important that you're able to marry that to the actual area of practice and have an appreciation so that when you plan your 2017, and if as much as you love to litigate and as much as you love to do that small claim matter, maybe it's not paying you on time. Maybe the days on sale from the time you raise an invoice to when you're actually getting paid is 15, 20 days over your net payment terms. That's something that you want to think about. But to have that type of data and to measure that, it's important first that you record it and you track it. Okay, so tracking of that information is important, and also the other way around, which we, tracking of overpayments on accounts. That's also equally important. So again, being able to track it so that you can measure it, and measuring it allows you to then take actionable steps to improving it. That's what we were all working towards. Recording of general accounts through general receipts and disbursement entries. As much as we talk about trust and how important and very sensitive it is and critical it is, it's also equally important to, because some legal professionals may just not deal with trust. Or there are legal professionals who obviously will deal with both. Managing your general books is as important, if not critical, especially if you're doing disbursement out of your general. So again, disbursements can come out of your trust. If that's the discipline that you have within your firm, you really don't care for your Aeroplan points, and you're just taking money out of the trust money, and you're just keeping it simple, then that's a great discipline if that works for you. That way, when you're dispersing your client for that application fee, you have now the option of just taking that $75 right out of trust. So when you do that retainer letter, you may want to include and keep these in mind, saying that the retainer of that $3,000 that you're getting is also going to include disbursements, and the client be aware of that, going back to how clear the communication needs to be. But if you're paying first, and then you have to collect that money from the client through an invoice, then you're doing a general disbursement, and that same application fee would now have to be paid out of your pocket. Whether you're paying cash, or whether you're writing a check, or whether you're paying out of your business credit card, it doesn't matter, but you want to make sure that $75 is recorded as a general disbursement, is made part of that invoice, so that you can accept that payment or move from the trust funds into your general. Moving along, maintenance of the original bank statements and books, canceled checks, detailed duplicate deposit slips. I know we talk a little bit more in detail, but the form we're trying to drive, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, having certain paper trail helps at certain points of time. We've definitely come a long way in getting out of paper. We don't want to necessarily go back to having a paper trail for each and everything, but maintenance of bank statements and books. Bank statements can be electronic. And why that is important is because when you do that reconciliation every month, you want to ensure that your bank statements, and when you close that monthly book within your legal accounting system or practice management system, that they actually match. And if there are discrepancies, whether it's a check that got bounced or whether it's a deposit that you haven't done yet, whatever may be the case, and I've been reminded that the bylaw 9 actually has that as part of a requirement. And we could send you a quick copy of that, but I think bylaw 9 has that as a mandatory maintenance. Okay, so we have a client who says she can hear me. I would kindly request her or him to kindly dial into the phone number so that you can hear us, okay? Again, deposit slips are another critical component. They are mandatory, and it's all part of that bylaw 9. In fact, we do have we had a webinar on disbursements earlier this month, and we're going to be having what's called Disbursements Demystified, and we're going to be continuing down of providing and educating our clients on those different silos as well. Preparation of financial statements, your income and expense statement. There are certain documents that your auditor is going to ask you for. There are certain documents that you just need to just understand your firm's health so that you can plan for the next year, understand where you made your mistakes, understand where you made your money, and work towards making that firm profitable, healthier, and for you to have that happiness that you want, not only being a legal professional, but also being a business professional. Okay. And just a quick extension of that financial management topic. When setting up your trust accounts, when you're receiving that money, it's important as part of that whole package that your auditor is going to ask for. These are some of the critical documents that go a long way in providing a snapshot of your journals and your entries and how you've gone about managing all this information. So a ledger, so a trust ledger, a general ledger, in this case if it's a trust account, having a trust ledger which talks about how money came in and went out with the date, with the information on it. Trust receipt journals, disbursement journals, right? So it's also important to have a journal on your disbursements if you're making disbursements out of your trust. Monthly trust comparisons and reconciliation. So this is where you do your monthly trust reconciliation and comparing the book to the actual bank and ensuring that they balance or understand, if they're not balanced, the components that went behind that imbalance. So maybe there was that, if you did it on the 28th of that month and then you forgot to deposit that check, the book says something, the actual bank does not have that check, then at least ensuring the check number is available to showcase why that imbalance would be important. That's part of that reconciliation. So we've covered 3 subjects. We've maybe traveled about 45 minutes into this webinar. Just going to do a quick, for those who just joined us about a few minutes back, we're talking about the professional obligations, and we've covered the client intake, service, communication, file management, and financial management components of the obligations. We're going to be continuing down this talking about business management, professional, and we'll take a pause there again and talk about time and personal. And one of the questions was, will this presentation be available? Yes, it most certainly will be available. We are recording this entire webinar, and the presentation that I'm making today will be available to you, and it is this session is accredited for CPD hours, confirming that. In terms of business management, okay, so this is really, again, it comes down to 2 things, whether you're a business owner or whether you work at a law firm. I think this applies really to solos and entrepreneurs and legal professionals who are running their own firm, where business management becomes a component. It's more critical and more personal to them. But if you are working at a law firm, having this information and having this knowledge is also going to help you help the law firm's way of operating. So regardless, having these obligations are important. Ensuring there's a software. Again, we're in the century where we're constantly bombarded with information. We're constantly aware of what's going around us. We are probably one of the most equipped and most aware consumers of our time. And we have Google, which is everything for us in our lives. Internet and Google is all we need. And we're well aware of all the software that's available to you. Crying out loud, software is being taught at law schools about certain software that you use. So this is not going away. So ensuring that you have a software as a part of your business management is one of the things that you can do to ensure that you save time and money. Because you could still do this without a software in a very manual way. But I think we've come a long way in today's industry, where we're competing. It's almost cutting edge, it's almost bleeding edge, for lack of a better term. Software, I'm not saying it's going to give you the edge in your legal career, but it's certainly going to give you a huge edge when it comes to you managing your business. Okay, and in fact, in your legal careers too, really depending on the types of software that you use, it may actually come handy, because you do have softwares and tools that allow you to manage and have a better handle for cases in the past. So software is here to stay, and an efficient use of a reputed legal software would always go a long way to give you that comfort. Security. We spoke about that briefly when we spoke about file management, but ensuring that you are aware of how your files are secure, whether it's password protected, whether it's behind a firewall, whether it's HTTPS, bank-grade security, you want to make sure you're aware of that so that you can then correspond that back to your client. Having regular backups. Now that's obviously very important. Whether you do that manually or whether you let providers do that for you automatically is really the question. As we talk about being efficient and being a lot more productive, I think it's important that you as legal professionals, whether you have your software today or you're just exploring the market for new software, that you keep these key components as part of your checklist and part of what you want to be aware of. Mobility. So as I spoke, the next growth spurt really for legal tech is mobility, and for having that information available to you on your mobile phones. As you've noticed, laptops overtook desktops, then you had your tabs overtaking your laptops, and now our mobile experience with our phones, smartphones, are overtaking the time that we spend on tabs and iPads. So it's only a matter of time before we become our own electronic device, where you've started seeing tech that allows your palm to be a display, right? So it's only here to stay, and it's only going to get better. But it's important for you to be aware of this. Ensure the security of your mobile devices. Do not leave your mobile phones. If you access your legal accounting information on your phone, ensure there's a password. Today, phones come with passwords such as your fingerprints. Both Samsungs and iPads have fingerprint passwords. Only you can then access and get into your phone. It's easy for you to track your phone if it's lost. So there's a lot of tools that are out there that help you in securing your phone and ensuring that even if it's lost, the data is not tampered with. But little things such as password protection for your actual applications. Do not have auto save on apps such as bank information. Do not have auto save of password on legal apps such as uLaw. You want to see, as much as possible, you log in every time you get into the app. And remote access. Now, again, these were some of the words taken out of the Law Society, and remote access, to email and voice messages is something that we derived out of the remote access. Now you have RingCentral, which is one of the most commonly used products out there for voice over IP telephony that sends you voice messages via emails. So if somebody has left you a voice message, so let's say you have Vonage as your business phone, Vonage can send you any voicemails as an electronic copy via email. But also actually accessing your email. When I say remotely, I'm saying accessible from anywhere, anytime. It's critical as part of your business management. So if your client has left you a voice message, you don't want to get back to your work or get back to your home and learn about that a few hours later it was left, right? There are tools out there that give you that instant access to what's happening around you. That's good that you're sending your questions away and our support staff are answering them. And please do use the chat line for that. And I'm going to continue following on my obligations to move on to the next one, which is professional management. This really talks about who you are as a legal professional. Okay, each profession, whether you're a doctor or nurse, as long as you're a professional, has these obligations, and it applies to the legal world as well. Completing of required CPD hours. So you're here for a purpose, and we thank you for spending the evening hours or afternoon hours with us today, and getting the CPD credits that are important, because it's a learning experience, right? What you hear and learn today is something that's always going to be part of you. There are certain things that you may already know, and this just helps to reiterate that. There are other components that you may learn new that's going to help you. Regardless, having those CPD credits, ensuring that you've got your minimum CPD credits done, but more or less think of it as a learning experience. Take that time out of your busy schedule to spend and learn more about what's happening around your industry. And that's why you have memberships. The legal tech, or not the legal tech, but the legal industry is one of the industries where memberships are at its fastest growth. So you have memberships by location, by geography. You have membership based on the profession. You have membership even based on areas of practice. So this is only, and you have memberships based on ethnicity. You have membership based on various other components that draws similar thought process, common people that want to be part of that membership, not only to have that feeling of unity, but also to grow together. When you're part of a membership, you do have offers and access to information and software and many other things in a discounted fashion, which you otherwise may not necessarily have. When you're a part of a membership, you have access to leaders in your field who make presentations, who are there for you to talk to clarify questions. And when you're part of memberships, you're part of a group of people, of like-minded individuals with whom you can share your experience as well. The good, bad, and the ugly, obviously. Review new legislations and case laws. Again, this is just an extension of understanding your legal industry. Understand that there are new forms that are out there. Understand there are new legislations and case laws that are out there. You want to be out there to understand necessarily the improvements that are happening around you so that you can appreciate that, but also apply it in your business. And reviewing your professional conduct guidelines, the Law Society does outline professional conduct guidelines, how you conduct yourself as a legal professional. I think it gets down to being meticulous and understanding how you behave and conduct yourself, whether it's in your firm, whether it's outside, ensuring that you bring that dignity into the profession. Moving along to the next core component of professional obligation, time management. And I've shared this even in my previous webinar talking about the same topic. Now, time management is a very generic topic. It talks about how one can manage time to be more effective and efficient. Okay, there's nothing new to talk really about time management when some of the greats have spoken about it. There are books about it, and you probably know about it as well. But our take into time management is associating time as it relates to you as a legal professional and giving you pragmatic items to think about how you can actually go about managing time better. How can you be more efficient, and how can you save that time to put it back to your family, put it back to working with your friends, whether it's maintaining a to-do list. I'm not the first person that you've heard who talks about to-do list. But the same to-do list when it comes to a legal professional can be slightly different. So are you maintaining a to-do list of all the billable tasks, Are you maintaining a to-do list of all the court time that you need to be docketing? Are you talking about a to-do list of all the matters that need to be closed? Or are you talking about a to-do list of all the disbursements that you want to backtrack to bring into your software? The to-do list can mean different things in different industries, and it has certain significance to what it means to your industry in the legal profession. So having a to-do list would go a long way, but also having this clearance, and I would say, again, having this understanding of why you're having that to-do list and marrying that to different components of your legal business is important, just as I mentioned. Having a to-do list, we have clients who do very due diligently every Friday, the uLaw clients who use every Friday to reconcile their bank statements every Friday because they can do it in uLaw. They do it every week. There are other clients that we've spoken to who have checklists. They use other software. You could use Evernote, which is a very common software out there to maintain this checklist. You can have your own practice management manage your checklist. You can have, as I said, for various aspects of your legal business, do have a to-do list that keeps you on track. If you've failed to, you've raised an invoice, but you failed to move that money from trust to general, that's a to-do list too. It's important that you track the money-making dashboards that are important, that allows you to make your money on a timely basis. Managing active files. Time being limited as it is, as your legal firm grows over a period of time, as I mentioned, 5 years, 10 years down the line, you're going to have thousands and thousands of files because you're going to be successful and you're going to be having represented all these different matters and clients over a period of time. If you're just starting off, then obviously you have other pain points. File management is probably not your biggest pain point, but even still, having that discipline of categorizing your files would go a long way to give you the time to search for that information much faster. You don't want to be spending 20, 30 minutes to search for a file. If it was categorized and if you knew there was an active file, again, you can classify them however you want. Active, closed, and archive are some of the ways that we do it in uLaw. There are clients who do it differently. There are others who don't use software, could be using various other categories. Regardless, you want to have your own process and discipline to segregate these files so that you can search for it faster and save that time. Okay? So managing active files, because to be quite honest, that at any given point of time in the day, unless you're doing a conflict screening, the active files are going to be the most important set of files that you would be working on. Right? Time dockets for non-billable time. Okay, so this is again an area of topic that's not often spoken about. We always speak about billable, and that's important because we're trying to make money. But then what we don't necessarily track and hence can't measure and hence cannot take action on are the non-billable time. And non-billable time can be comprised of various aspects of your business. It could be maybe a pro bono docket, right? It's time that you've spent, but it's non-billable. You can't bill for that. Maybe it's time that you spent in understanding a certain case, maybe so that you can be better at that case representing that client. But this is the time that you spent out of your life towards something, but it's not necessarily billable. Tracking that is very important, whether it's at a matter level or whether it's at a practice level. It's very important that you track these non-billable time tasks so that, as I always say, at the end of the day, you are having tracked it, you're now able to measure it, and hence take an actionable step towards improving it. So if time management is all about improving how you manage time, it's really important to know and measure how you're not managing time properly, or if it's time that's not towards billable tasks, you may want to take that next step of reducing that non-billable time or at the least be appreciative of where the time is going. Okay? So you want to be always able to track it, measure it, and then take actionable steps towards it. So we spoke about time management. Now we speak about another very generic topic, personal management. We all educate ourselves. We all come from different walks of life, and we choose different career paths. But you as legal professionals, the unity amongst you is that you've all chosen to be a legal professional. Whether you're a paralegal, you're a lawyer, or if you're working at a law firm, you've decided to set yourself as a career within this legal professional. And this profession can be very demanding in terms of the time, in terms of the concentration that's required by the brain to do your tasks. Okay? Many times it's not just clerical work, it's a lot of thinking and a lot of thought process and a lot of smart, hard work that goes into being who you are. So it's important that having gone through all of this, that you're really happy being that legal professional. So satisfaction is very important as a legal professional because you chose it. Yes, there are the odd times where you have to do this for a lack of choice. Yes, there are times when you have to do this for money. But like everything else that people talk about in today's life, if you're not happy about doing something, the chances of you having the mileage to do it over a long period of time is that much more or less. Okay, so find your mojo, find how you can be satisfied with your legal practice, and if time is a constraint and if time is what's not letting you be happy about it, get it out, talk about it, blog it, write yourself your own email that you're not good with time, you're not good with trust accounting, but get it out of your system and work towards improving it, right? Make that your 2017 resolution, if you will. And again, enjoy your area of practice. There is an article, and I'll send this to you, written by the Canadian Bar Association, which talks about coping with stress and avoiding burnout, techniques for lawyers. You can Google this, and I just Googled it a few days before this session. It's a really interesting conversation that they have, or a topic of conversation that they write about, and they provide you with different techniques, which I'm happy that we're sharing already in this webinar today. So they talk about how you want to measure time, you want to be able to measure where you're going wrong so that you can take actionable insights, having a calendar, having tools that can save you that time and pressure. So yeah, it's a really good read. I highly encourage you to read it at your own leisure. Satisfaction with growth, progress, and financial success. When talking to legal professionals, the number one comes out is their desire to be that legal professional who's fighting the case and winning those arguments and being noticed. Okay, that's a big part of the adrenaline rush, being that daredevil, if you will. But a very second close would be being financially independent, financially profitable, and working towards it. And it's important that you have tools, whether it's software or process, but having the tools and techniques that give you the insight of where you are today financially, set your goal for where you want to be for tomorrow, track, measure, and progress. And legal accounting practice management softwares that are tailor-made for this industry, that understand this industry, really allow you to do that. Whether it's understanding the area of practice where you're making your money, or understanding where are your top expenses, or even understanding who are your top paying clients and which areas of practice bring you the highest days on sale, which is where do you get paid the fastest, what areas of practice do you actually get paid way above the due date. So all that will give you the confidence, the data to back that confidence about what you should do moving forward to move your revenue from, let's say, 100 grand to 150 grand or 50 grand to 100 grand or whatever that goal is. It's important that you use these tools and techniques to help grow that satisfaction index and get to where you want to be financially. Recording your time spent at work. And in this article, as well as what we've heard, is legal professionals don't necessarily take a vacation. That's because many times the time is not in their control. You have certain court dates that may clash with the dates that you arranged for your vacation. So there are various other components that go behind your time being managed. But it's, again, at the end of the day, it's important that you plan, again, measure and plan to take the steps so you can still take that vacation, you can still record your time that you're spending, and really be happy and satisfied with this career. Again, just reiterating everything that we've spoken about. In doing that, what you're looking to ensure is having a work-life balance. I don't know how true it is, but this article that I spoke about, the Canadian Bar Association article, talks about a high rate of suicides within legal professionals. And it's important to keep in mind what goes behind being a legal professional and how important you as a profession are to this world. But in facilitating that, the last thing you want to do is overstress yourself and get yourself to a point of being unhappy about doing what you do. Work is important, life is equally important, so having that work-life balance and having a plan to manage stress, whether that's financial, health, or otherwise, is very important. So as part of your personal management, I mentioned this in my last webinar, and I was really happy to know that one of our clients actually took that advice. So we spoke about health and how important it is to manage your health. Yoga was one of the things that I had suggested, because you see Lululemon or Lululemon, one of the top-selling Canadian brands that we should all be proud of, but their focus is on putting yoga first, having a 10-minute exercise regime every day to begin with. So whatever it is your stress, having that financial plan, having a healthy work-life balance, and managing your health is all different critical components of giving you that work-life balance. Okay? So we've spent almost an hour and 10, and I'm going to take the next 5 to 10 minutes to talk about the ways and tools and techniques and the practice management aspects that can help you manage and can help you be more productive of your day-to-day legal tasks. Okay? Just as a recap for people who just joined us, over the last 1 hour, we've covered the key components of our agenda today around professional obligations of client intake, file management. We spoke about financial management and the importance of how you manage it for your own purpose and for audits, business management, professional management, time management, and the last we spoke about personal time management or personal management, how important that is. So if managing all of this is of importance, we're going to be talking about a little segue, talking about practice management. And when I say practice management, I'm really talking about software that allows you to do that, the benefits of that, and we'll talk a little bit about matter management, and we'll call it a day, and we'll thank you after that. Okay, so focusing on the benefits of practice management. Again, not something that you don't already know, but providing you a little bit more of a twist. Total cost of ownership. Not all of us, not all legal professionals understand TCO in terms of that's not really the first thing that comes to their mind when they think about a practice management software. Many things come to mind. How easy is it to use? Is it colorful? What accessibility do I have? How does it make my life easier? But it doesn't necessarily talk about total cost of ownership. So total cost of ownership, again, can be a topic by itself, but you want to talk about the different components that go behind the practice management software costs, short-term, long-term, whether it's cloud-based, whether it's based out of your desktop, you want to understand what are the investments that you will be making in maintaining this practice management software. Okay, so that's a big part of the homework that you would have to do if you're exploring a newer practice management software or having a bit of a discussion about your existing one. Efficiencies in these practice management software and what they bring to your practice. Time management and all of that is all about maximizing the time and being efficient and productive. And there are features and functionalities, and I'm not going to go through them all, but giving you the confidence that practice management softwares today, legal accounting softwares today, offer you these features and functionalities that can automate a lot of the mundane tasks that you do. Autofill court forms, being able to generate invoices, being able to send out invoices through an email, getting paid faster through automated payments, through credit card processing. A lot of these components, and there are many more features that go behind it, that can make your life easier, that can take care of certain mundane tasks that you would have been expected to do on a manual basis. Being compliant, a big part of you being a legal professional is doing all of this in a very unison way with being compliant. Practice management provides you legal accounting and practice management software, I have to say, because accounting is a big component of the compliance. Having that, the softwares do allow you and give you the visibility and the documents that can by itself very naturally be LSUC compliance. And again, I say LSUC, I do apologize, it's just Law Society compliance in general, not for just Upper Canada. And we spoke about accessibility. So gone are the days when, with the improvement of legal tech, you're not stuck to your firm and having a software in your PC or on your desktop or on your laptop. If you need to be at a different place and time, but you still need to have access to all the information, then today is the time to enjoy and take advantage of all the tools and techniques that are there and the software that's there and the practice management capabilities that are out there that give you that feature. You can use cloud, you could use remote desktop, but that's a little bit more expensive. Cloud, as commoditized as it's getting day by day, it's only making it more cost effective and efficient for you to do. And being on the cloud gives you the flexibility of accessing your data even when you're out of your office on any device that's connected to the internet. Now let's maybe take the next 2-3 minutes to just talk a little bit about the matter management, right? Kind of the managing the daily operations of your law practice. But from I wouldn't say it's a kind of a recap, but just from a matter perspective, it talks about, let's say you create a matter for a client. You want to organize that matter or that file, chronologically name it, so that file number is easily searchable and indexable. We spoke about that. You want to docket your meeting, whether it's client meeting, whether it's meeting, witness. It could be various other meetings that you're having, whether it's that or docketing your phone conversations, docketing the document drafting that you do, the reviews that you conduct, whatever is the event that goes behind you winning that case for your client. Make sure you docket it. Whether it's billable or non-billable, it can be easily tagged. And if it's billable, obviously it's going to calculate the means of how you want to bill this client based on your agreements. But it's important, again, to write it down or draft it down in practice management software terms, because the software can then do the work for you. You don't have to manage it. By just having the discipline of inputting these dockets into the practice management software, the software has other capabilities that can give you the automation that you require. So if you docket 1 hour of time, it automatically calculates, let's say at $150, that whether it's taxable or not taxable, the tax included rate and the tax that's not included in your overall bill. Disbursement management. A lot of our clients, legal professionals, have told us, about sometimes losing money on disbursement, right? Not being able to track it. You may actually end up paying for a fax, but then going into a Staples or a Walmart to pay for it. But then you lose the receipt. you don't necessarily have a track on it, then that's money that you've just lost that you are unable to disperse your client. So having the discipline and having a software that can support that discipline just makes it life much more simpler and easier. And updating the status of the matter. You don't want to keep a file that's already closed in an active status because that's misleading. And it's the other way around too. If it's not closed, if it's not logically closed, then it should not be marked as closed. So updating your matter and the status that it's in is just going to, again, using that software, it's going to give you the freedom of time and efficiency to put that saved time into other tasks. As I kept saying, and really the theme for today was being able to track, measure, and take actionable items based on what you've measured. It's very important. Big law firms have this capability. They have a lot of manpower. They can afford it. But some of the solos don't necessarily have that manpower, and hence practice management softwares or legal accounting softwares or just softwares out there today should give you this capacity to measure and analyze all that you're putting into that software. So you may docket your time, but if the software can take that input into and really measure where that docket went into, which area of practice, how much of time did you spend on it, how much did you spend on it versus how much did you charge for it. These are different other measuring, I would say, multitudes of that docket that is going to give you answers to many questions that you need to ask yourself. Okay, so understanding the state of your practice and understand what corrective measures you can take to make it better, pending invoices, trust transfers, and aging invoices. These are all reports and features part of practice management software today that can quickly give you insight to those questions. Right, so you want to understand your past success and failures to improve its future. It's really important for you to really measure whether you're starting off fresh or if you're a seasoned campaigner. And if you're already doing this, then kudos. Continue doing that, continuing measuring it, and continue to be successful in improving every day and every month going forward. But if you're not doing that, then please do consider that as a resolution in the new year, especially if you're a sole practitioner because you don't have much time. Matter analytics also gives you the power of the law office. As I mentioned, it gives you the ability to digest all that data and give you the information that you need to take those actionable steps. And having that information and that knowledge is only going to allow you to move the next step up and competing with big firms. We did speak about time management, but calendaring is a big part of the legal profession's job, whether it's calendarization of the work that needs to be done, whether it's court date. You obviously have the tools today. We spoke about mobile phones. Mobile phones today can integrate with your email accounts and have a synchronized calendar. Practice management softwares can have their own calendar system, and they should give you the flexibility to integrate seamlessly across different calendars so that you just have a single source of truth, a single view of your day and time. Whether you wish to access it on your phone or whether we wish to access it on your computer, that's left to you. But giving you that power is something that practice management softwares can do for you today. Having a view of the daily, weekly, monthly agenda, again, allows you to plan your life better, plan your firm better, plan for vacation better, plan for planned holidays better. And if it's court times, obviously it's very important that you have that as part of your daily and weekly view. And many times when you set yourself up for a task, it may actually be a billable time docket in your matter. So if you set yourself for a client meeting with Lisa Ray for a Thursday next week, and it's scheduled to be for 1 hour, that could just go directly into your docket and be represented on your calendar or the other way around. That way it's just one data entry, but it's serving two purposes. Okay, so these are types of things that can save you time, kind of have that multitude facet to the software that you're working with, and end of the day, give you time and the efficiency that you need. We spoke about a big part of the paperwork that you do as legal professionals, besides the documents that you generate based on the style of practice, is also court form filling. So there's a lot of mundane, information that you fill, like name, address, repetitively across all forms. Practice management softwares give you the power of being able to automate many of these forms. Again, a time saver. And we talk about cloud storage. We also want to talk about extending the data storage of that to cloud-based softwares that are outside the practice management softwares too. Okay, so you talk about Google Drive and you talk about OneDrive. These are very highly secure, reputable companies that provide you data storage at a very cost-effective price. Some of them come integrated with practice management software. Certain practice management software have their own data storage. Regardless, they as a combination should be able to give you that flexibility to save your documents all in one place so that it's easily searchable at all times. So you're not scampering for those documents. You generate them at the time when it happens. You save them under the context of the matter or the individual, so that it's just easy for you to search at any time. Okay? And for the sanity of this particular webinar, I probably want to stop moving forward from here and open the questions up for any specific questions that you may have. We are going to make this session available to you recorded, but I would kindly request to you to send us an email confirming your participation in this webinar. And please do send us your feedback on this webinar and some of the other webinars that you've been part of this year as we continue to track, measure, and improve ourselves. We want to certainly do that for our webinars. And if there are certain subjects that you would like us to talk about, please feel free to send that information as well. And it's to support@ulawpractice.com. And for those who don't know who we are a Canadian legal accounting and practice management software on the cloud. And we encourage you to visit on our website. And that's all I'm going to talk about uLaw in this webinar. We hope that this was an informational session and it was your time well spent. I have 7 more minutes, and I will open up the chat window. And kindly email us. Please don't send us your email address. Just take the time, quickly compose an email, and write support@ulawpractice.com in the to section, and with the subject being I attended the practice management CPD. That's all we need. We need an email confirmation coming from you, not your email to us, not your email address, sorry. So a question from Roxanne is, when you say to do proper due diligence with Google, do you mean to make sure the files are password protected, shown only to me? That is correct. When it comes to Google and some of these bigger players, just like banks or just like anything else, the insurance that you have and the assurance that you have with these players are much more than some of the other unknown players. So let's say you buy a cloud storage from Best Buy, right? You have these different hard drives that also give you the accessibility to access them online. And again, do you compare that with Google? Google provides you with a HTTPS bank-grade security similar to uLaw or similar to OneDrive or similar to other cloud players that you see in the industry today. You want to ask yourself if that is the same level of security that this product that you bought in Best Buy has. Again, you want to question that regardless, but then you do go in a bit of with an insurance when you are working with some of these bigger companies, because they have definitely done the due diligence as it is to ensure there is no backlash, because the last thing they want is for a legal professional to complain about a last password, about the integrity of their security being lost, because that would go really bad with Google. And again, if you do decide to not go on the cloud, then that's fine too, because you could then encrypt that file locally stored within your computer, and you just have to find a better technique or a better way to access that at any time and anywhere. Sure. I think there's a quick question about where do we send this information. Again, it's support@ulawpractice.com, and that is the the email to which you send that information. Thank you very much for all the feedback. We'll keep the lines open for a few more minutes as we start seeing a few more questions coming in. Thank you. That being said, we want to again thank you for taking the time. We appreciate your presence today. We want to wish you and your family a very happy New Year, and we look forward to seeing you at our next uLaw session in the new year. Thank you very much, and take care.